Owens, personal stylist and founder of Style Risers. I help driven, high-performing women use personal style to accelerate their confidence, their visibility, and their executive presence. And today we are here talking about something that I hear so often from women, which is this feeling of being really stuck with their style, or feeling like you're stuck in a style rut. So if you've ever stood in front of your wardrobe and thought, I have nothing to wear, and it's not because you literally have no clothes in the wardrobe, but because nothing feels right anymore, this session is for you today. I actually asked that question at a workshop last week, and pretty much 80-90% of the women in the room put up their hands that they have had that feeling of just feeling like you are standing in front of the wardrobe and you just don't know what to wear. You just feel like I've got nothing to wear. So I think today is a really important conversation, because when you are in that situation of feeling stuck with your style, it can actually feel really frustrating. And I'm not talking about, the occasional, sensation, I don't know what to wear, the occasional morning of not having what to wear. All of us are going to have that sort of feeling from time to time, myself included. I'm talking about when this is more of a pattern that is occurring, and that there is this deeper frustration that's going on, this deeper frustration that's sitting underneath. And what happens then is we start to think nothing works, nothing looks good. Why is getting dressed this hard, right? It shouldn't be this hard. That is what many women will naturally start to think when they are in this space of, feeling stuck with their style, or feeling like they're in this style rut. So I want to offer you just a different perspective to start with on this, because I actually think that when you are stuck, that is the beginning of change. It is a beginning place to start. It's a sign. When we're stuck with something, it is a sign that something's not working, something has shifted, and something needs to change. And so before I get into, I want to share with you what to do if you're feeling like this. I want to talk about why this actually happens. And I think with anything, once we can actually understand what is the cause for it, like what is actually going underneath, it's so much easier then to know what to do. Because often when we're feeling stuck, there is this sensation of we just don't know where to start or what to do. And so we kind of need to, take a step back first and go and actually have a look at what is underneath the stuckness. Because it's not the clothes. The clothes are the result. They are the external, visible result of what is happening underneath the surface. But the first thing that we actually need to do is go back or take a step back and see, okay, what is the real issue here? Why am I feeling so stuck? There's actually a lot of power when we can acknowledge what is going on. That is the very first step that we need to take. We need to sit down and we actually need to acknowledge the situation and recognize what is going on, And what are the reasons that we are feeling stuck in our style? And I want to share with you three of the biggest reasons that women will share with me, and see if these resonate with you. And then I'm going to share with you a path forward, okay, for each of those. So, the very first reason, I think this is one of the biggest reasons that women will feel stuck with their style, it's due to change. So, body changes, could be lifestyle changes, it could be career changes. We move through different phases of life. And when we're feeling stuck in our style and and we've gone through a change, sometimes, often, the clothes haven't caught up yet. So they're still back here attached to this version, this identity, who we were during that time, but we're here. And so when we're looking at those clothes, they don't feel right anymore. They don't feel like they belong to who we are now. Or sometimes, and I think this is often the case, phases and transitions in life happen, they don't happen like just in one day, they happen over time. And so we just start to feel this sense that those clothes aren't working for me anymore. And they're often not connected with the person, that we might be envisaging ourselves to be. And sometimes where it's an identity change, or, we might be stepping into a bigger role in our professional life in work, they're not feeling like that's the person that I'm stepping into. The clothes sort of feel back here. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why we feel stuck with our style. It's that change. As I mentioned, it can be body. Body's a big one for women in our 40s and 50s when we go through, if it's been after childbirth, or you're going through perimenopause, like I am, and some days you just don't feel great in your body. And there's just certain styles of clothing that suddenly you don't feel as comfortable wearing. If you sort of, 50s, 60s, you might be in the menopause stage. And then again, there's different changes that have happened in your body, and clothes that you wore in your 40s may not feel the same. You just may not feel as comfortable with wearing those. Okay. The second one that I want to mention is, I'm just looking at my notes so I can remember, is struggling with shopping. So I actually went to a department store on the weekend, and the amount of choices that we are presented with, particularly in a department store where you've got multiple different brands, and the range that brands do, seems to get bigger and bigger. There's new drops of stock all the time, multiple times within a season. There's a huge amount of choice. Our brains very, very easily will get overwhelmed when there's too much choice, right? Once we get more than like 15 things in front of us, our brain starts to shut down. We go, oh my goodness, it's too hard. I'm not quite sure what to choose. And so if we can't step into a store and be able to identify what works from a color, style, silhouette perspective, then it's very, very difficult to be able to, in a calm way, work through all those choices. And so what often ends up happening is you might buy one-off pieces. So they looked beautiful on the rack, and you liked them in the moment, so you buy them. You might buy really similar pieces to what you already own. So there's a certain safety zone of comfort around those clothes. Or you might just simply buy out of necessity, like you actually just need to go and get something. And so all of those will influence the wardrobe that gets built and the collection of pieces that gets built. And what happens is you're actually not building this cohesive wardrobe. And so if we don't have a cohesive wardrobe, if we're opening it, we can't easily see how things work together, then this feeling of being stuck, the sensation of being stuck, that is the overriding feeling that is going to prevail. And so if we're struggling with shopping, the sort of the impact of that shows up in our wardrobe, and then we feel stuck. Then we might feel, well, I need to go and buy maybe something new that's going to help me feel unstuck, but then the cycle continues, right? Because we're still not being able to really identify how we can build out a cohesive wardrobe. That's the biggest second challenge that I see around women feeling stuck. And the third one, this is also a big one as well. I feel there's some crossover here with change and, as we move through different points and inflection points in our lives, but it's a lack of direction around your style. And I personally suffered with this as well. And what I would find is I would see something on someone else and I go, gosh, that looks amazing. Maybe I could wear that. And it was in a style that totally wasn't me. And I see this happening with clients a lot. They might like the style of someone else and they try to emulate it. And then it's like, oh, but that actually doesn't feel like me. And so if you're not clear on your own aesthetic, your personal preferences around your style and what that actually looks like and how to create it, right? That's the really important part. We might even know what we like, but we don't know how does it visually translate into style. It's very easy then just to blindly follow trends, or we just choose, whatever we can find in the stores, and we're not actually really building up a style that feels true and connects to us, that feels like it's a true and authentic expression of who we are. And that helps us also to connect with other people because they're getting an insight into who we are through our clothes. So that's the third one. And so if you're here with me live, think about, you don't need to comment on this, but think about which one of those did resonate most with you. Was it what I mentioned about change, about having clothes that served you once, but may not be right for you now? Is it the struggle around shopping and not being able to actually identify pieces to bring into your wardrobe that are going to help you build out that cohesive wardrobe? Or is it just having a lack of direction around your style? You might identify with more than one. That's okay too. Sometimes there can be multiple factors that contribute to us feeling this way. Okay. So what do you do? Let's get into what can you actually do when you are feeling this sense of stuckness with your style? So as I mentioned, I really think that there is power in sitting with a problem before we try and go out and solve the problem, and giving that problem some time and some attention. And so the first thing that I want you to do is to sit down and really think about why you were stuck. So think about those three things that I've mentioned, what did you identify in what I just shared? And, you might even spend some time, journaling on that, or just thinking about, yes, okay, that's what I identified. That's why I'm feeling stuck. That can actually be really empowering as a starting point, because as I mentioned, we can go off in so many different directions, and we can, do band-aid fixes to things when we don't really know the actual cause of a problem. But if we can dive a bit deeper, see what's underneath. One moment, so I can close my window here because someone's drilling very loudly downstairs now. But if we can just get underneath the real deeper cause and get to the deeper frustration of a problem, then we can be so much more clearer about, okay, what could be a possible path forward for me? What's really going to help me move forward beyond this stuckness? So if you identified with change, i.e., where there is, your clothes just aren't, they feel like they're not reflecting who you are now. So they might have been right for a previous role, a previous season of life, a previous body. It might even have been a previous climate. Perhaps you lived in a different city with a very, very different temperature, or it might have even been a change in culture. I definitely felt that when I came to Spain, there were just certain clothes that didn't feel right for the culture here and what my lifestyle is like here, where I, typically walk so much further on a daily basis, than I would with my lifestyle in Australia. So all of those things can mean that our clothes don't quite suit or don't quite feel like they reflect who we are now. So if you identified with that thing of change, this is what to do. Look at what are the specific pieces that don't work now or that don't feel like you. What actually are they? And why don't they? Is it because, for example, let's say it was a body change. Let's say it is just not realistic that those clothes are going to fit you and you are going to feel comfortable in them again. They might have been postpartum sort of, clothes that you were wearing after giving birth. They might be very corporate suits that perfectly suited a very corporate role that you had previously, and that is not what your working lifestyle is like now. Really get clear on what are the pieces in your wardrobe that do not align with who you are now and, or your body or your lifestyle or your role, and be willing to let those clothes go. I'm going to say that again because I think it's super important. Be willing to let those clothes go. It is so easy to hold on to clothes for years. I've seen women do it for many, many years, sometimes 5 years. I have seen clothes in closets that have not been worn in that period of time. And I want you to understand that there is an emotional and mental cost to the clothes that hang there. Every single time you open your wardrobe, they're going to reinforce a message about who you are, and they're going to be reinforcing, a past you, a past life that is not who you want to be stepping into now. And until we can, clear out the old, we don't really allow space for the new to come in. So donate, give to a charity. There's some great charities out there that we can give to. Let those clothes go. Don't let them sit there because they are keeping you in the feeling of being stuck. So the first step. Okay, so the second one we talked about was if you struggle with shopping. So identifying, the right clothes for us, right? We want to know the colors. We want to know the silhouette. We want to know the style that all works for us. That's really, really important. That's that really is, they are core 3 modules of my program. I teach all of those things because they're super, super important, so you feel empowered and you can easily recognize what works for you. One thing, though, that you can do if you don't have that information is that have a look in your wardrobe and see if you can identify one piece that does make you feel amazing. So every time you put that on, you really do feel you've got the confidence that you want to have, and you really, really feel good in it. Once you know that piece, you can repeat it, right? You can repeat it in a purchase. So if it is an A-line skirt, or if it's a wrap dress, maybe it's a great blazer, then you can specifically just shop for that piece. And I think everyone's got one piece in their wardrobe, at least one piece that they absolutely love. And, I will often ask my clients, what do you love about it? What is the really, really specific thing about it that you love? And this also then helps you start defining your own style, right? Maybe it's a kooky print. Maybe it's the fabric. Maybe it's the cut. Whatever it is for you, see if you can find that piece that you love. Look at what you like about it and then make that a repeat purchase, because you're going to now be specific when you're shopping. And it's the lack of specifics that make shopping a struggle. Okay, so if you got resonated with the struggle with shopping, that is my tip for you. Okay, third one. If you resonated with that lack of direction around your style, then we often, we need to try and, I find, like, bring some inspiration back, because often we can just feel really lackluster around our style in that sense. And, the stuckness often goes with this. I feel sometimes this lack of inspiration when there's a lack of direction around your style. And so what we want to do is we want to bring something in to give you some guidance. Now, I personally have found bringing definition to style. I've done it for myself. I do it for all my clients. Bringing definition to your style gives you an enormous sense of clarity. It helps you think about who you are on a deeper level. It helps you connect with different aspects of your personality, and it helps you understand, how can I translate those into my style? And so one of the things that you can do is think about 3 words, 3 style words. You could have 4 if you wanted, but I find 3 is the sweet spot. But what are 3 words that feel meaningful for you that you can use as a guide? So let me give you an example, because I think, examples are always good. A recent client, she had edgy in her words. She had classic, and she had classic, relaxed, edgy. And that was an amazing guide for her, also because the edginess was missing in her style. It was way too classic for who she really was. But the classic had come from a previous role and way of dressing. That there definitely was some connection to who she was, but it wasn't all of her. And so you want words that express the parts of you that you want to express through your style. And as I mentioned, they should feel meaningful to you. And once you have those, you can apply those words to your wardrobe, to your shopping. And, I have a whole process around that helps you identify those, because as I mentioned, it just brings so much clarity when we've got a definition to something. And then when we've got that definition, then we can perhaps, go and have a look at some, jump on Pinterest, or, have a look online but not just blindly look, like actually go with a bit more of a definition of what we're looking for, because otherwise I think it can just be very, very easy to get overwhelmed, with all the choices out there. And I know from doing this process with so many clients that they will always say to me, like, how much that has helped them understand who they are and how they want to show up in their clothing. So that's the step to do if you're just feeling like that lack of direction with your style. So, as I mentioned, sit down first and really understand why you're feeling stuck with your style, because I just think that when these things come up in life, they're a sign, and they get to lead us forward on a path. It's a sign that it is time to redefine your style or to make a change with your style. That is all. That is what the stuckness is about. And so I hope that you will sit down, identify where you're at, and see if you can do one action this week that is going to help you move past that feeling of stuckness. Acknowledge the stuckness, get curious, don't judge yourself for it. See, what's the one, see what is an action that you can take, that you can move forward. That's your starting point. If you would like to go deeper, though, if this has really resonated with you today, if you feel that you need deeper support and guidance through this process, that is what I do. Feel free to send me a message, mention stuck or mention this live session in your message, and happy to have a conversation with you about what that might look like. Okay. I hope that's been helpful for you. I think this is a really important topic. I hope it's resonated for everyone here today, and I will see you for the next live shortly. Have a wonderful day, everybody.